Great to have you with us. Now, President Akufo-Addo's comments on the cash for seats allegations against some members of his government have attracted some sharp criticism from his opponents, who maintain it could be prejudicial to the ongoing parliamentary probe. The president, during his media encounter Wednesday, described the allegations as flimsy, expressing disappointment.
The person who won the expatriate for the business person has been a client of mine for over 35, nearly 40 years. His father was a good friend of my own father, and he himself has become a very close personal friend of mine. I've known him, and I eat in his house. He eats in my house. He has my telephone number. I have his. Even since I became president, I've eaten in his house a couple of times. He's also been to my house. One of the reasons I've eaten in his house is that he lays the best Lebanese food in Accra, and I love Lebanese food. So anybody who invites me to Lebanese food, I go. He happens to be. And this now, I'd be amazed if somebody like that, Said Fakri, will think that he needs to pay money to come and sit next to me. This is a man who can get me on the telephone anytime of his choosing, who sees me, who comes to my house, and whose house I go to. But nevertheless, the accusation has been made, so it is being investigated. I see my part of the problem I have in this very broad commitment that I have made, because sometimes, but the genuineness, always the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We will see how the special prosecutor conducts himself. We will see whether investigations that are mounted and serious charges against people whom I've appointed, whether they are brushed under the carpet, or all of these things are matters that will unfold. And I think it's in an area whereby actions will speak louder than words.
President Akufo-Addo speaking yesterday. Like we said earlier, we have with us the Ghana Integrity Initiative. The communications manager of the initiative, Michael Bwedi, is with me here in the studio. Mr. Bwedi, good to have you.
Good to be here too.
Great. We'll be going into all these issues, but let's unpack them one by one, because Minority Spokesperson on Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who appeared before the committee investigating this particular allegation of cash for seats, says these comments are unfortunate and prejudicial.
What the president did today, not once, not twice. And why? And since this matter broke, why is the president so attached to this matter? Why is it so? I mean, in less than 24 hours, he put out a statement that he had cleared the trade minister, and nothing untoward has happened.
But that was based on some hard work that had been done. And he explained it today. Yeah. That the minister had come, he was satisfied, and with explanations he's been given, he has the right to say, I have looked into the details, and I'm satisfied with the explanations I've received. What is wrong with that?
From the Flagstaff House on the 21st of December, you've heard former President Rawlings speak. He's not been impressed. You've heard the Ghana Integrity Initiative speak. The local chapter of Transparency International, they have not been impressed. You've had even members of the president's own party, like PC or Piofori, like Kennedy Ejapon, who have all said that, look, we are not impressed. This whole thing is a charade. Nobody should have come up with this scheme that you pay money and you get access to the president. You don't sell presidential access. You don't sell public time. You don't engage in this unethical, immoral, inappropriate conduct. You don't do that. It's not only the minority saying that. I've heard the CDD also comment, and they have all said that, look, there are fundamental ethical issues that raise questions about the fight against corruption. So what's the hurry? Can the president wait?
No,
the committee has just started.
Let me bring you up.
And you engage in such prejudicial, such unacceptable. What you have done is to undermine the work of this committee. You control the House. Are you telling me that members of parliament on the MPP side, having heard their president today, will want to come to any other conclusion, regardless of the facts before them? The president has just bastardized the process.
That was Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. Now, Deputy Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, however, says Mr. Ablakwa's comments are unfounded.
They, in the initial stages, made a lot of prejudicial comments, even before going for the probe. Yet they quickly turn around and say
too wrong to make it right?
No, I'm saying that it's double standards on their part. I keep making the point that we should be consistent always in our argument. Now, in this particular instance, The president did not say that he has cleared the trade ministry. No. The president makes the point that, listen, on the face of the evidence, and that's why we have the concept of prima facie. On the face of the basic evidence that we are looking at, everybody will ask himself, is this even plausible? But because I've said I want everything investigated, you will have another investigation going on in Parliament. Even though on the face of the evidence, look, this gentleman, my friend, he comes to my house, I go to his house, you wouldn't believe this on the face. Beyond that, I have had an opportunity to look at it and ask him to explain to the nation. Beyond these two levels, you will still have to have a probe going, because I've made a commitment that I want all of these things investigated. I think anybody who listens to the president in this context is clear that the president is not undermining the probe that is ongoing.
But his comments...
The people of Ghana, as they watch this probe, as they listen to the answers everybody will give, will determine. We are not in a hurry. They shouldn't be in a hurry. Let people decide.
Wrap up.
Kojo Opon Nkrumah, they're responding to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who was reacting to President Akufo-Addo. Now, is the president trivializing the concerns being raised about the fight against corruption in his administration? Many anti-corruption campaigners have said this administration is taking too long in making persons suspected to have engaged in corruption face the law. But let us see if Michael Bwedi, communications manager at Ghana Integrity Initiative, you heard Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa there, and referring to that organization. Let's see if Mr. Bwedi has a different view.
Just for the record, I'm the corporate affairs manager.
Corporate affairs manager.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So, let's start with this issue of cash for seats. What the president said about that before we go into the general fight against corruption. You've heard the president's comments. You've heard the reactions. What's your reaction?
I think let me start by looking at the issue of prejudicial issues that are being raised by the minority. I think that, the unfortunate bit is that the minority had tried very hard to politicize the issue, and that is what hurts the issue. And then also the president had also contributed to the politicization of the whole issue.
How was it politicized?
Well, according to the minority, somebody came to them as a whistleblower came to them. Now, when a whistleblower comes to you, what you don't want to do is to straight away go to the media and start talking about it. You understand? Then immediately you're beginning to rip the Whistleblowers Act, you shred it into pieces, because then even the whistleblower himself, it does not take advantage of the protection the Whistleblowers Act gives the person. So in the first place, you have moved the discussion away from a whistleblower wanting to fight corruption to an arena of politicizing the issue.
So what should they have done?
They could have gone to the law enforcement agencies, they could have gone to the investigative, they could have quietly gone to SHRIDE. Because you see, what you do is that when you receive a whistleblower complaint, you go to SHRIDE within a certain specified number of days, and then SHRIDE will then commence investigation. By going to the public, they themselves have start the whole campaign and debating thing and the politicization of the issue. Now, going fast forward, I also think that the president's comment as to, there's nothing wrong, going to conclusion, for me is also a bit unfortunate, because, it's important that, we look at the outcome, we discuss an outcome of an investigation. But you see, the process leading to the outcome is equally important. It builds up trust in the outcome that you get. So if the president called for files and more briefing, and then the president jumped to conclusion, I think that it was rather quite hasty. And therefore, what the president could have done is that, having satisfied himself that nothing untoward had happened, he could have referred the issue to, say, SHRIDE, he could have referred the issue to YOCO, he could have all the investigative bodies, any of the investigative bodies,
wasn't that
to then, to confirm that what the president thinks, that, look, nothing had happened. Then the president could have spoken on it. But for the president to have just jumped and judged, if you call my son, to judge my character, I'm sure he will say that, daddy is the best daddy. By what everybody else thinks.
But again, wasn't that the object of him calling the trade minister to look into the issue himself? You heard the deputy information minister, they referred to prima facie. He's just calling him to look into to see if there is something to investigate. So if by his determination, No matter which means he used, there's nothing to investigate.
No.
What else is there to do?
I think it doesn't lie with the president to determine that. You see, what happens is that the president, being the chief executive of the country, should be briefed. The worst part of it all is that he has been implicated in all these issues, and therefore he has to satisfy himself that nothing untoward may have happened, or his name or his good office had not been abused or brought to disrepute. That he is entitled to. Okay. And having done that and satisfied yourself that nothing untoward had happened, there are other issues. The issues of accountability, the issues of our compliance to regulations and stuff should be moved to the appropriate authority to handle. And that he didn't do. So he satisfied himself and concluded that nothing had happened. Well, the good people of Ghana are entitled to know the details. Like they say, the devil is in the details. Okay. So the good people of Ghana are entitled to know the details, how this whole relationship came about. Look, if it's for nothing, it is also for learning. I've always said that the fact that the group, there is somebody from the NDC on the event management group, what do you call it, the Millennium something.
Excellence Foundation.
There is Victor Boyo on
Ambassador
it. Yeah, exactly. It was a good thing that going forward, Ghana could have learned that, look, it's not we shouldn't have this winner takes all, that when MPP is in power, everything should be MPP. So for me, it's a good thing. There are good lessons that can be learned from that. But then you don't, because we have politicized it, it's now let's find fault or let's exonerate, and that's it.
Which ties in a bit to the next leg of the questioning, because Mr. Akufo-Addo, our president, made a statement about the parliamentary probe, saying that in so many words, because he has opened the floodgates for every issue to be investigated, he can now name 2 separate issues that have seen ad hoc committees. But then some of them are quite unnecessary in so many words, referring to this cash for seats matter. For an issue that is being investigated by Parliament, what do you make of that statement that he made?
I always applaud the president for his statesmanship and some of the statements that he makes is public utterances. For me, some things that the younger ones, ought to learn. But for this one, I just beg to differ. I think that, you see, if the president is well informed about the Whistleblowers Act. The Whistleblowers Act says that if you suspect that a crime is going to be committed or some corruption is about to happen, it hasn't happened though, it is about to happen. Or if you know that it has happened, you understand?
Okay.
Or if you know that somebody is about to break a law or had broken a law, you understand me? You have to report. You understand? So it is not because the president said had opened the floodgates and therefore everybody is walking through it. No, it is because there is a statute, there is a law that opens the floodgate to allow citizens to participate in the fight against corruption.
Okay.
And therefore, if people are doing so, what the president should be doing is to encourage them. But then
he hasn't stopped them from reporting. He hasn't stopped investigations, has he?
His statement communicates a certain level of regret for opening the floodgates.
Okay.
But he shouldn't do that. What the president should do is the president should encourage people, but then there is a certain part of the law that says that when you want to come under Whistleblowers Act, do not come or do not make the complaints out of malice or ill will.
Okay.
You see what I mean? If you do that, then your complaint would be, would not be accepted or would not, so the president should encourage people, but also should then let people know that, look, don't come under, don't let your complaint itself, don't come under conflict of interest. Don't put yourself in a conflict of interest if you are making such complaints, or don't come under, under the pretense of, yes, exactly. So those are the things that we expected that the learned president would have, educated us on, but not to sound as if, the complaints are creating a problem.
But you see, is the situation he he spells out. Is it true or not? Remember, it was a common statement made by the former president. A lot disagreed with him. But the former president did make the common statements that the perception of corruption is high in his administration because the reportage around corruption is rife. And so because a lot of cases are coming up in the media, generally his government does not seem to be doing well in the eyes of the citizenry. So it's a concern that exists among people in the political class, no?
I think that it's a very, very unfortunate concern, because you see, when it is not about the complaints, but it's about how he handled the complaints.
Okay.
You know, the complaints came, the people made the complaints, people were emboldened, but you understand. But the question is, how did you handle? That is why I first made the statement that the outcome of an investigation is important, but then the process leading to the outcome is equally important.
Right.
So how did the former president handle this thing? People lost faith because of how the complaints or the allegations of corruption were handled. I mean, we can name them if somebody...
Right. Yeah, I don't want us to jump so much into what happened in the former administration.
That's
but
fine.
The point you're making, basically, is it does not matter how many cases of corruption come up and are investigated.
Exactly. But you see, people must see some transparent investigation, and then people then can trust the outcome thereof.
Okay.
But if the investigation happens like it happened with the way the president said, well, I was briefed, I was satisfied, and that's it. 26 or 28 million Ghanaians are not in the office of the president, and so could not possibly believe the president hook, line, and sinker. The devil lies in the details. The publication of the whole thing, where, okay, well, there's nothing, we received 2.6 million and we had given out to, barring the fact that there had been a lot of contradictions that ensued the president's list. And therefore, please, what the Trade Ministry could have done is that, look, Auditor General, auditors, let's publish the final audit. And I'm sure it would have cured every misconception or every doubt that...
So, for instance, the minority is calling for an audit, a full-scale audit into the issue. Do you think the ad hoc committee is enough, or that audit will be necessary?
I think that the minority should not even only be the ones that are calling for the audit. The ad hoc committee should ask the Auditor General or a competent body to audit the whole account and publish the findings thereof, and just so that people would have confidence in it. And then when such audits are done, recommendations will be made for just learning, for the learning of future events and stuff like that. So I believe that, you know, it is not enough for the president just to dismiss.
Right. Mr. Bwedi, you'd hold on for me a moment there, because during the encounter, the president patted himself on the back for ensuring allegations which came up during his tenure are being investigated, though he believes this level of transparency would allow unfounded allegations to take center stage in some cases. We've already looked a bit at those issues, but also on corruption. He believes the appointment of Martin Amidu as special prosecutor will give his appointees the fear of God.
Well aware of the general sense of anxiety in the country and the strong feeling that politicians tend to get away with corrupt practices. A significant choice, though that Mr. Amidu is, I do not expect that he will provide all the answers, will deal with the phenomenon of corruption by public officials. But I do believe that at the least, the office will remove the fear of partisan prosecution and begin to put the fear of God in all public officials who are intending to go down the path of corruption. I've made it publicly known that anyone who has information about acts of corruption against any of my appointees should bring it forward and should be prepared to back it up with evidence.
Right, so let's continue with the discussion there. Mr. Bwedi of Ghana Integrity Initiative is still here with me. Mr. Bwedi, so you've heard what the president said about the special prosecutor. Really, it seems that beyond appointing a special prosecutor and allowing for these investigations into these specific cases, the corruption space, the anti-corruption space has not been very busy this year.
Well, the year is very, very young, so it will get busy. But I think that the appointment of the special prosecutor and then the vetting will surely gather the momentum for the anti-corruption fighters as we go, because the special prosecutor ought to be vetted and approved by Parliament, and then the setting up of his office, the appointment of his deputy, and then the staff and everything will keep the anti-corruption. But like I said,
you think the special prosecutor will put the fear of God in appointees, like the president says?
Oh, that was the lighter side. I mean, the president has a very interesting, sense of humor, and I always like that. He has a way of lightening the issue. So it is not necessarily to scare his thing, but it is just to let people know that there will be somebody watching the appointees. So that, for me, it was great. And in fact, the whole comment about the special prosecutor and by the president was great. It's because there's this huge expectation that ought to be managed. And so the president talking about the fact that he accepts the fact that the special prosecutor is not going to be the all-be-all, the Captain Planet of corruption, for me was also very good, because we need to manage expectations in regards to the special prosecutor. But then, having said that, I think it's important to also say that the special prosecutor is coming to cure a certain gap that existed in our fight against corruption, prosecution. That gap has existed for God knows how long, and interestingly, the first year of the president, that gap continued to exist. We saw very little prosecution in the first year of the president's administration, and we believe that it's not good enough. We also saw very little in terms of public education. We were hoping that the president would have also address public education, and also the issue, because there were little prosecution, there was also very little, there was no asset or issue of asset recovery, which we need to know. Process of crime. The state is not only interested in how many people you put in the cooler, but we're also interested in recovering our assets. So
the president did mention in his speech during the media encounter that because of better vigilance in procurement agreements, they've been able to save some 5.7 billion Ghana cedis in monies that would have been paid illegally, or under questionable circumstances in procurements that were done in the past administration.
I think it was great to hear that. This information should not only come once in every 6 months, but it should come regularly. People ought to know what is going on. The sad thing, talking about procurement, is that the country pledged during the 2015 or 2016 anti-corruption summit, the 29th May, London Anti-Corruption Summit, that one of the things we're going to do with regards to procurement was e-procurement and debarment. If you go to the website of the Public Procurement Act as we speak today, the e-procurement is not there. That is how many months down the road. If you go to their website today, it is only the World Bank debarment that is there. Ghana's debarment to procure people who had infractions with procurement is not there. And we believe that, look, if part of the things that the president should also be addressing or be focusing attention to is not only just to appoint somebody appoint a minister for procurement, but we must also be seen to be building integrity systems in the corruption risk areas of the country.
I like the way you put it, corruption risk
areas. That's right. Because you see, there is a huge problem with procurement in this country as far as corruption is concerned or transparency is concerned. So you put an e-parliament. One of the things that e-procurement was supposed to do is that we publish every procurement, the bidding process, who won the contract, who is doing what, and what is at the website. So citizens would have access to it, and then where there are infractions or where there are problems, citizens can volunteer information. This has not been done, and I believe that going forward, the president must help build integrity systems rather than just leaving
on that note, we'll be bringing, let me just inform viewers that on Friday's edition of News Desk, we will be having it with us in studio officials of the Ghana Institute of Purchasing and Supply. We will be looking at how we can get rid of the safety nets or the loopholes in the corruption-prone areas, the corruption risk areas, as Mr. Bwedi refers to them. So, Mr. Bwedi, let's begin to wrap up the conversation. And we've already had such an interesting conversation with you. What would be your final words on this matter?
I believe that for the president to show faith amongst the people, we will plead with him that he should urge the Attorney General to bring the Right to Information Bill to Parliament. The Conduct of Public Officers Bill should be in Parliament, and then also the Asset Recovery Act ought to be reviewed to allow for verification. If that is not done, then the Conduct of Public Officers Bill should be passed so that the citizens can have opportunity to vet the assets that are declared. Then finally, the regulations for the Beneficiary Ownership Disclosure Law should be passed so that the Beneficiary Disclosure Register is set up. But all in all, I wish to congratulate the President for deepening the frontiers of accountability.
Right. Thank you very much, Michael Brady. He's Corporate Affairs Manager for Ghana Integrity Initiative. You're still watching Joy News Desk. I am Daniel Dazi. But up next, Daryl Kwao brings you business.